Let me tell you how one little blue rock changed my life. Whether you are new into rock hounding or you are an experienced rock hound like myself, or if you're just into collecting crystals like this beautiful amethyst right here, or into finding fossils, believe it or not, some of them may be in your backyard, or you're wanting to learn how to identify different rocks, minerals, and even artifacts, you've come to the right place. My name's Chris, and welcome to VividRock.
Come explore this amazing world with me, one vivid rock at a time.
Here on my channel, we will be discussing rock hounding in general, rock, mineral, fossil, and crystal identification, different resources that you can use, safety out in the field. And I'm even going to take you out in the field with me on some of the adventures that I go on so you can enjoy a love of rocks right here along with me. Now, before I go any further on today's video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please be sure to hit the notification bell in order to hear more content from VividRock. So this is my first video, and today I thought I would talk a little bit about rock hounding in general and how I got into rock hounding and some of the resources that I love to use. As a disclaimer, any of the products that I show as far as resources or stuff that I talk about or any of the gear that I use while rock hounding, I bought with my own money. This video is not sponsored at the moment, and in the future, should I review any products from anyone, anywhere, I will always give a 100% honest review because integrity is something that I hold really close to my heart. Also, another thing is rock identification as a rock hound is fairly subjective. There is science behind it. It is a science, but I am not the best expert in the world. I'm not gonna pray to say that I am, and I will make mistakes from time to time, and I apologize in advance for that. I have been rock hounding, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the video, but I have been rock hounding solidly for several years now, and I've been at it pretty hard most weekends. I'm going to share all the resources with you, but I am constantly learning, and every rock hound that is out there is always learning. We're amateur geologists. A lot of us will call ourselves that. So stick around and we'll get straight to the content. How did I get into rock hounding? Well, in late 2022, I had reached my peak weight. I was over 300 pounds. And keep in mind, I am a petite woman, standing only about 4 feet 11 inches tall. So it was very large. I was starting to have trouble getting around. And I had a young child at the time. And I just got to this place where something had to give. And I'm not done with my health journey, but I started walking one day. I just started walking. Prioritized walking before work, walking after work. Any chance that I got, if I put my son down, I would go out and go for a walk. Well, one day, I think it was lunch break time, and I had gone out, and I had been walking probably for about a month, like every day. And one day, I just saw this shiny rock. It's blue, kind of hard to tell in this light, but I saw this shiny rock, and I picked it up, and I put it in my pocket. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. I didn't know we had blue rocks around here. And that's the thing that started it all. What is this? The question that I honestly get a lot it is, how do you go from what is this to knowing? what is this? And it's through time and experience. And I'll go into detail on what has helped me on my journey through rockhounding later on in the video. But from that point, I kind of just got hooked. I started learning about the geology in my area once I found out. This is Virginia blue quartz, by the way. We have some very beautiful, this one's quite fractured and iron stained, but that's pretty common for us here in Virginia, but it's a quite a dark blue specimen actually, with its backlit. From there, I just found more places. Now all of a sudden it was like my walks weren't as boring. Although I loved clearing my head, there's only so much head clearing I feel like you can do. And I started seeking out places to walk where I would find more rocks. So I started looking online and Googling rockhounding in the county that I live in and different places. And that's how it all started. And now, I'm no stranger now to, I've gone on hikes as long as 10 miles to go seek out specific minerals or areas to rule them out if I want to rockhound them again. I've gone now across the country rockhounding. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's something that brings me peace, and it holds something really deep in my heart because it motivated me to continue with my diet and exercise because I wanted to be able to hike, large, scale larger stuff. And now I'm at a place with physical fitness, I can scale down a 300-foot steep decline safely and not worry that I'm going to jack my knees up or fall down because of my weight. So I still have probably about 60-ish, 70 pounds left to go, about 60 at this point, but I'm going to keep going. But in the meantime, I can't wait to just share this journey with you guys. What is rockhounding? What makes a rockhound? A lot of us will call ourselves amateur geologists, basically what we are. But it's a little bit beyond that because geology is like the study of rocks, minerals, and things like that in their natural environment. Rockhounding is a hobby of searching for and collecting as well as studying rocks, minerals, fossils. So if you're just a collector and you don't go out searching, kind of a gray line there, but most would say that you search, study, and collect would kind of be the defining factor as a rockhound. But in my book, if you love rocks, if you collect rocks, anything under that umbrella, you are fine in my book to call yourself a rockhound, because some of us don't have the ability to make it out into the elements like I do and actually go out rockhounding. Perhaps you have to rockhound from your couch. In my opinion, you're still a rockhound. Welcome to VividRock. Okay, the next question is about resources, favorite resources. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video, starting with this blue guy, it all started with Google, honestly. That's how most things start nowadays. But, developing the ability to search effectively is really good. So learning how to use Google or any other search engines effectively is really helpful. With Google, the one thing in any search engine, the one thing that I can recommend is being specific. What's really important with rockhounding is being specific. Specificity, forget it. Being specific. So for example, I wouldn't just say I found a blue rock, what is it? I would recommend saying, I'm just going to call out a random county in Virginia, Spotsylvania County. I think that's a county. I found a blue rock in Spotsylvania County. When I put a light up to it, it is transparent. What could this be? That is going to yield a lot better results. And that is because the geology, even within your own state, can change wildly from one side to the other. So that's one resource, is learning how to search effectively, because a blue rock down in North Carolina could be a sapphire. A blue rock down in the southernmost point in Virginia along the Appalachian could possibly still be a sapphire. Much more rare, but it's possible. But a blue rock up here in Northern Virginia, where I live, if you're near the Blue Ridge Mountains, it's probably Virginia blue quartz. So understanding that being specific is very important. Let's see. The next one I would say is a resource I don't particularly care for, and I think it's going to get better with time, but we're just not there yet. And that would be the Rock ID apps that are out there. They are honestly, we're just not there. It uses a lot of AI, which is fantastic. I use AI, not for rock hounding, but I use AI. Well, I'm sure actually I probably do sometimes use AI. The rock hounding apps that are out there for rock ID of any kind, rock identification, they're just not there yet. It is only using, most of them anyways, I can't speak for all of them, but most of them are only using a visual picture of a rock, where like all the other elements of where were you? Were you at a stream? Did you pull this out of a gravel bed? Did you pull this next to a railroad? Were you on a mountainside? Where were you? All of these things matter and become part of your research when you're trying to identify a rock. Some are more complicated than others, which leads to more specific research needs. But that's that. Another thing I would recommend is getting books. I love this book. This is Rockhounding Virginia by Falcon Guides, a guide to the state's best rockhounding sites. So that's another question, is where do you know to look? Where do you know to look? Because so many places are protected, especially in Virginia, even more so in Maryland. And books like this can be really helpful as a starting point. It's really important, though, that as a rock hound, as you're endeavoring on reaching out into the world and identifying that you are respectful of laws and rules that are stated, and also making sure that you are not trespassing onto private property without permission, because then it wouldn't be trespassing. So this book, for example, what I like about it in this book is, I'm just going to pick one, Kennedy Mine, Limonite and Manganese Oxides. And what they have here are a general description of the location, if it's family friendly in their opinion, and kind of what the area is like, you know, if it's thick brush, if it's shady, da-da-da-da-da. And then it will say whether or not, where does it say in this particular book? Special concerns, lots of leaf cover and vegetation. That could be indicative of it's harder to find rocks, and also things to think about with safety. Snakes. We have quite a few venomous snakes in Virginia. We have rattlesnakes, we have water moccasins, copperheads. That's not all of them, I don't think, but those are the ones that came to mind. And that can pose a threat. You know, make sure you wear the proper, you know, don't go out rock hounding in flip-flops on a trail. Not a good idea, because then you could be in a lot of trouble. But some of these will say, you know, at this site, collecting isn't allowed. So it is helpful. It may be that they found out after the fact. I do not know, but they'll even say if they know that if it's private property. Private property doesn't mean no, but it doesn't mean yes either. Always get permission when you are looking for private property. I have personally developed a few relationships, and it just boils down to not being afraid of rejection and just asking. Make sure that you're polite, respectful. In fact, some people in certain states, if you're hounding on, I've not done this, but I've heard of it, if you're hounding on a field in the middle of nowhere, they would love it. If you even said, hey, if I find any big rocks, I'll be happy to move them out of your plow field, because then they don't have to worry about it for their farming. Other places that I like, so books are good. I have lots of those back there. For the states that surround my state and other states that I've been to for rock hounding. Like this one even talks about Shark's Teeth locations and things like that. I've been to Caledon State Park. It was great. So, okay, that's it for books. And lastly, I would say for getting started, online public forums. Facebook has great groups that have formed in different areas. Virginia Rockhounds, for example. Also, look into joining a mineral and rock club locally. Most states have at least one or two. There's also gold panning clubs. I don't belong to any right now. It's something that I want to do. But I've just been so busy doing all this that I haven't had time. And the closest one is almost an hour drive away from me. There's some really cool websites where I don't know how they get the source. Mindat is pretty good, mindat.org, I believe. I've used that. Also, there's this website, I believe, called Rockhound Resource or something like that. You have to Google it. But you can actually scroll down and you can see a map, and that it'll just pop up right in Google Maps, and it'll give you kind of little pings in general areas where people found certain things. And that's how I have found a lot of my locations. But it's also where I have found a lot of places that I found I'm not allowed to rockhound. If I go to a state park, in Virginia, it's kind of a gray area on rockhounding in state parks. But I talked to the park rangers and asked them, hey, is it okay if I take a handful of something cool if I find it? I promise I won't dig or anything like that. It'll just be by the riverside or something like that. Just make sure you follow the rules in your local laws, as well as federal laws as well. That's really important. Yes, I called the federal, I can't remember what it was, National Parks and Recs, I'm not sure. But asked about rock hounding in general, because it was kind of gray to me on the website. Gettysburg, for example, I don't live far from there. For me, anything within a 3-hour drive, it isn't terribly far for a rock hounding day. I found out a lot, about leave no trace and things like that. And that's really important. It's really important if you get into this hobby to have integrity and to follow the rules. Don't be like, oh, well, the rules don't apply to me. 1, you could get arrested. And 2, the rocks and the minerals in certain places are protected for a reason. Erosion is a big thing as well. And if everybody just started taking rocks from places, rocks kind of help hold things together, with like banks and things like that. So, you can't just show up to some random place and start an excavation. That's all I really have for now that I want to kind of share on resources. And the last thing I'll touch on is identification of rocks and minerals and misidentification as well. And we'll have another video. There's lots of videos to come about specific stuff. This one's going to be a little longer because it's my first video. I'm so excited to share all of this stuff with you. Identification and misidentification. Embark on this hobby carefully and know what you're getting into if you are going to be going out in the field and also collecting rocks and minerals. There are lots of ways to utilize your knowledge that you acquire in networking to identify a rock or a mineral. You will misidentify rocks and minerals, and that's okay. It happens. There are professional lapidarists that will still misidentify a mineral. It is part of the process. You need to be aware of that. And the reason I say that is because there are certain rocks and minerals that are toxic, okay? Like asbestos, that's naturally occurring, and it is here in my state. So this is actinolite with epidote that I found. I found it. It's dry right now, but if it were wet, it would be a very beautiful gemmy green color. Absolutely beautiful. And I was like, oh my goodness, that would tumble so well. And it probably would. So I took it home, as I normally do, and I started looking into seeing what is this. And it is actinolite, which is, I believe, part of the amphibole group. In short, it's asbestos. It's a form of asbestos. And they have these like long fibers within it, and you have to be very careful. Something like this probably would not harm me. Everything is intact. There's no fibers like coming out of it. But I do have it in a case. It's locked down. It's just sitting there pretty to look at. I wouldn't want to put that on my diamond saw that I have in my shop and have asbestos fibers going everywhere. So just be careful. Tiger eye is a very famous, common, beautiful gemstone that has I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it can have asbestos fibers in it as well. So it's important to know what you are getting the best that you can. Having a rock generally that, isn't necessarily going to make you sick. So don't think of it that way. But if you start getting into the lapidary arts like I'm into with rock tumbling, rock cutting, and polishing on a flat lap, then you could be getting into some territory if you don't know what you are handling. Always use safety precautions. Always wear a mask. Always wear eye protection, especially when you're hammering, sawing, grinding, anything dusty. Safety, super important, not only out in the field, but also at home. There is a disease that was really common amongst miners back in the day called silicosis. And it was from breathing in all of the dust from all these minerals. And these miners were just dying randomly. And they didn't know what it was necessarily. I don't know if I can't recall if they called it miner's lung or something like that. But it is still a real concern. So if you get into this hobby, as far as like if you start grinding down rocks, tumbling is fairly safe. So long as you do it outside, and you're mostly handling wet material at that point. That is probably the safest way to transform your rocks is through tumbling, which I'm going to do loads of videos on tumbling. I can't wait to share that with you. So we'll get into the specifics of how to, but I just want to stress to be safe. Be safe, be educated, don't be scared, but just go into it and be smart. Don't go and get a wet towel saw and start cutting open rocks. Even something like this could potentially be a health hazard. If I was banging this open and I inhaled those particles, especially in people who are sensitive. But silicosis is no joke, and it is deadly. So you want to practice all safety measures, and I'm going to do an entire video about safety so that way I don't spend too much more time worrying you about much. But every hobby has its safety concerns, and this is one of them. Again, holding this bad boy isn't going to hurt me, but if I start cutting it and if I'm not wearing a respirator, I could be in trouble. And if I do that enough times, I could be in even more trouble. that's gonna about do it for this first video. I cannot wait to share more content with you, talking about, we'll do an entire video just on geodes, amethysts, fossils. This is a beautiful Petoskey stone from Michigan. Petoskey stone is a fossil. Agates are my absolute favorite. And just even finding relics like this Revolutionary War slag glass. And if you didn't know what you were doing, you might think that it was blue quartz. So we'll talk about those kind of things as well. How to tell the difference. Please like, share, subscribe. This is a community that welcomes rockhounds of all kinds. That's the kind of community that we're going to be. Like I said, whether you are a homebound rockhound, or you are somebody that is getting out there, you are still a rockhound. It doesn't matter. And again, welcome to VividRock. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and keep rocking on.